2007 held the record for the most dramatic Arctic ice melt ever recorded until this past hot summer, when that record fell by an area the size of Texas. While many see this warming trend as part of a planetary disaster, others are more interested in the massive oil reserves now opening up in the Arctic Circle. And tonight we take you a couple dozen miles offshore from Point Hope, Alaska, where ABC's Cecilia Vega found the front line in a battle between sea conservation and oil exploration.
Woolly socks, check. Emergency radio, check.
Got it.
Robotic arm, check.
Lock it tight.
Okay, go ahead.
We are about to enter the frigid waters of the Chukchi Sea off the north slope of Alaska. It's one of the most remote places on Earth, but these days it's also a battleground.
Here we go.
All right.
Because under this sea, there's thought to be nearly 30 billion barrels of oil.
This is amazing already.
And just a few miles from us, Shell is gearing up to start drilling. They hope to strike it rich, and Greenpeace hopes to stop them. It is a dangerous mission. Just me and Greenpeace marine biologist John Hocevar.
We are on the bottom.
We're on the bottom of the Arctic.
At about 200 feet down,
Oh wait, there's something.
the world outside our sub is teeming with life.
It looks like a crab.
Plankton, krill, a seabed blanketed with starfish,
The whole floor is covered with them.
and creatures that seem from another world.
Whoa, it's huge.
That is the biggest basket star I've ever seen.
But Hocevar says drilling could spell catastrophe for this fragile ecosystem that sustains life all the way up the Arctic food chain.
If you had an accident here, you'd be talking about millions and millions of dead organisms.
Shell has spent billions of dollars just for the right to explore for oil here, but the payoff stands to be enormous. The Arctic may hold a quarter of the Earth's undiscovered oil, enough to drastically reduce America's dependency on foreign supplies.
Now begins the creation of the Mudline Cellar.
The oil giant has promised to drill safely and responsibly, developing new technologies to reduce drilling noise and dedicating a fleet of vessels ready to respond to a spill in 60 minutes, 24 hours a day.
Shell bent over backwards over the last 5 years to compromise here.
And Shell has found support in some unlikely corners, like Bob Reese, an environmental writer who spent 3 years reporting on the battle for the Arctic.
I think that if a company does bend over backwards, they ought to be rewarded for it.
And that reward came directly from the Obama administration, which gave Shell the green light to start drilling. Shell declined our request for an interview, but told us in an email the debate on whether to evaluate Arctic energy resources is over. We are now focused on safe execution. But Greenpeace says it's time to draw a line in the ice. They vow not to stop until all Arctic drilling is banned permanently.
To drill for oil, is utter madness.
Earlier this year, activists disrupted operations on a Russian rig for 5 days, despite being pummeled by water cannons falling into the icy Arctic waters when their boats were flipped. But in their fight against Shell, Greenpeace is now trying a different approach, science. They invited us to tag along. It's a bumpy ride to their research hub 40 miles offshore.
They say if you fall in this water, you can easily die within just 3 minutes.
We are welcomed aboard the Esperanza, Greenpeace's refitted Russian Army fire ship.
Thank you.
And life on board is what you might expect. Tofu for lunch, a very serious recycling program, and an eclectic crew from all over the world who dedicate their lives to the cause.
In this remote, unforgiving environment, we all know it would be impossible to clean up an oil spill. We can't risk it.
Do you stop any kind of development because a spill could occur? Or do you have systems and backup systems and other backup systems to deal with a spill, which Shell does, and then allow it to proceed?
You know, it's a tough battle sometimes to choose.
For those who call the Arctic home, like Point Hope, Alaska Mayor Steve Omatuk, there are no easy answers.
People need money. They need our economy to come up, but we need our way of life also.
Drilling would bring in much-needed jobs, but Steve says his community will always rely on life in the sea to survive.
The ocean is our garden. The animals are our identity as a people.
Pretty peaceful down here.
And down below, our exploration of the Arctic's underwater gardens continues.
Oh, what's that?
There is one final discovery.
It could be a coral, because that is potentially a very exciting find.
I think you got him.
And away we go.
We make our way back to the surface for a closer look at the catch. First, a gargantuan starfish.
Probably weighs 8 pounds.
And then, what Hocevar is really excited about.
Here, this may be a soft coral, and if so, this would be the first specimens of corals ever collected in the Chukchi Sea.
Environmentalists say these creatures may offer big insight into what's at stake.
We're rushing ahead to allow drilling in the Arctic, and we don't even know what's down there.
Greenpeace faces an uphill battle. Shell has already begun preliminary drilling, and next year looks set to be full steam ahead. I'm Cecilia Vega for Nightline off Point Hope, Alaska.